Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first one is titled, I'm severely panicking that I've ruined my life. I, high libido, never wanted to admit I had a problem with my low libido fiancé. We started off going at it like rabbits, and within 5 years we have intercourse once every few months. Here's the problem. I'm writing this as I'm in hotel room, about to go to my rehearsal dinner for my wedding that's tomorrow morning. This should be a happy time for me, but I'm just filled with dread. I'm out of state for my destination wedding, and literally all of my closest friends and family that flew out here to see me on what is supposed to be the happiest day of my life have no clue how unhappy I am. I hate myself for letting it get this far. I hate myself for thinking she was the victim. This started last year, a couple months after we got engaged. The sex dropped off. We talked, she told me I shouldn't pressure her to have intercourse if I loved her and wanted to marry her. I tried talking nicely to her, asking if I can change anything to make it more fun for her. She would just use excuses first, like her stomach was upset, or she was tired. I told her that if her stomach was bothering her so frequently, weeks at a time, that we should visit a doctor. Then she would come at me screaming, saying I don't believe her. Which I didn't. Every time I wanted to go out with friends she would say, I wanted to have sex tonight. And if I came back early, she said, too late, I'm sleepy. I spoke about this with her again this Monday. I told her that we're getting married, and we should start off our life right. And she basically told me that she ideally would love to have sex once every 3 to 4 months. And that if I loved her I would respect her and not make her feel pressured. I should have cancelled everything right there and then. A week before our wedding. But I couldn't even think where to start. We would lose all our deposits. What about the flights people had booked and all the time off they requested? This morning when we woke up she told me how we are going to be sleeping in different rooms tonight because of the tradition. Fine. And then she told me that she's been super stressed from the wedding and how she's looking forward to the honeymoon, and she basically told me to not ruin it for her by always bugging her and trying to initiate intercourse. And now I feel like I'm a victim myself. And that I made myself the victim for not getting out earlier. And I honestly want to scream my head off and wake up from this nightmare. A user in the comments said, the people who care about you will care about you even after you call off the wedding. It happens. You wouldn't be the first person who called it off on short notice. Your other option is to file for annulment when you return from your sexless honeymoon, due to your marriage being unconsummated. It will cost more to get divorced than it will to call it off before it starts. Either way, don't get her pregnant. Another user said, she has told you that how you feel doesn't matter, what you need doesn't matter, she doesn't give a duck if you're unhappy. Apparently all that matters here is what she wants, and she doesn't want you ruining her good time with your pesky desire for her. That's how the rest of your life will be if you stay with her. You don't owe it to anyone there to doom yourself to a sexless marriage. Your future is worth far more than whatever you or anyone else spent on this wedding. You're much better off choosing not to get married now than having to go through a divorce later. As others here have said, the people who love you wouldn't want you to go through with this for their benefit, and they'll still love you after you call it off. The next one is titled, I bailed on my own wedding, update. When I saw that 99% of the replies said the same thing, I panicked. I wanted someone to tell me that I'm being irrational and that it will all get better after the wedding, that I just had cold feet. I told my finance that we had to talk and told her it couldn't wait until after the rehearsal dinner. She told me that we can't be late, and I begged her to talk to me. I told her how I was feeling, and I was begging her to reassure me that she will help me, that she'll help us get back to who we were when we first met. I desperately told her I wanted to save our future marriage. She told me I'm being ridiculous and that I was banned, her exact words, from going to the rehearsal dinner with my silly emotional state. I stayed in my room and cried. There was a lot of backstories I didn't share on my first post. My parents are friends with her parents, and our fathers belong to the same invitation-only club. Golfing. I knew my dad wouldn't have my back. And I know so many of you said to confront him and tell him. So, I did. After the rehearsal was over and everyone went to bed, I spoke to him and my mom. And they dismissed me pretty much. Told me we can benefit from marriage counseling but that it isn't a reason to cancel a wedding the night before. They promised me help after we get back from the honeymoon. So, morning rolls in. And I wake up at 6:45. Wedding ceremony starts at 10. I tell my best man that I'm not doing it. I tell him what's going on. He's known about the sexless part for a while but not to this extent. I told him to tell my groomsmen and everyone else. I didn't want to deal with that. One of the groomsmen is her brother and would cause issues. He's not a close friend, but she wanted him in the party. I wanted to tell the pastor, but I honestly didn't even know where to find the guy or reach him. I haven't really been allowed to do much in the planning of this wedding, just know what to say and where to show up. So, I wrote a note on those hotels' notepads they have on the nightstand. I just wrote that since I'm still in my silly emotional state, I'm banning myself from the wedding. And that I'm going back to the apartment to collect my things. I told her to enjoy her wedding, and that she should definitely go and enjoy the honeymoon since all expenses were covered by me. So now I'm just on my layover. A couple more hours until I'm back to where I used to call home. I pay the rent, but I called my landlord and paid an additional 2 months so she can figure things out. I'll be taking my most essential stuff as quickly as I can and then we'll be crashing at my best friend's, best man, apartment. I'm then booking myself 2 weeks vacation to Hawaii. I don't even want to be in this state when everyone gets back. Nor do I have the power to deal with it right now. Thank you everyone. Seriously, thank you for helping me make such a hard decision. I know how I left seems cowardly, but knowing my family and hers, it was the easiest for me at the moment. I know I have to face them at some point, but for now I need to get my peace back. Also, the amount of missed calls I've gotten from her, and a bunch of other people is scary. Edit. Thank you so much to everyone who posted. I'm trying to reply as much as I can. I'm back home now and quickly packing up my important belongings, so it may take a while for me to respond. Edit. I wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about my parents since I've gotten a lot of DMs asking about the situation. I didn't include this in the original post because I didn't think it was important to mention, and that I didn't want to seem like I was bragging about money. My parents are wealthy and have a high social standing. I grew up in this lifestyle and have always done my best to make them proud. I was in a relationship before my ex-fiancé that my parents didn't approve of at all. She wasn't from a rich family and was too rough around the edges for them, and she had a tattoo. Anyway, they always did everything in their power to have me end it. They made her feel terrible, they made me feel terrible. I'm ashamed to admit that I left that girl eventually after my parents introduced me to my ex-fiancé. Her family is friends with mine and belong to the same country club. It's a mistake that my dumb young mind back then couldn't comprehend. They convinced me I didn't love her, and I guess I saw the shiny new toy in front of me and caved. I wanted to make them happy so bad. So, that's why when everyone was telling me to go to my parents about this, I knew that I wouldn't get the support. And I know that I'm going to be blamed for this, there's no reasoning or explaining it away. My parents are rational people or kind for that matter. I still think of my old ex to this day. She was an amazing girl. I wonder what would have happened if I was strong enough back then to have said no. The next one is titled, I bailed on my own wedding. Another update. I know I've said this in my last post, but I wanted to thank everyone again for caring and giving me advice. All your comments and PMs were greatly appreciated, and I know I made the best choice in a bad situation. I'm sorry to everyone who I didn't reply to. I had an overwhelming number of messages sent to me and couldn't get to all of them because of how busy the last few days have been. I'm sorting through all of them now and reply as quickly as I can. I got a lot of messages asking similar questions, so I'll try to answer those in this post. First off, I didn't end up going to Hawaii, and I don't see it in the near future either. The crap storm caught up to me about 24 hours after I landed my feet back in my city to clean up our apartment. I did my best to ignore all texts and phone calls and only answered to inform people that I was okay, and that I need some time. My best friend, best man, has been getting an overwhelming amount of crap, too. Which I feel terrible for because it wasn't his decision at all, and I didn't want to make him my scapegoat. So, I've decided to stay in town for the next few weeks at least so I can help him deal with all this. He had my back, and I'll definitely have his. It wouldn't be fair to leave him when seriously everyone that can't get a hold of me is going to him. I have talked to my ex, on the phone, since. I wanted to make sure she was okay and wanted to tell her in a short and simple manner that I did not want to marry her ever, and how I no longer will continue any relationship with her. I told her the reasons why, again. At first, she was apologizing and crying, which was the toughest for me because I hate making people upset. Then, she was back to blaming me for why she wasn't affectionate or loving or no sex. Like everything I would mention about her, she turned it around and said, well, it's because of this, that. So, I told her that since I have so many issues, perfect that we're not together anymore. Then, she became crazy and started threatening, saying how she'll ruin me and that she's taking me to court. Her dad also sent me messages on how they're talking to their lawyers. My parents, at this point, are mentally disowning me, if not actually disowning me. My father will refuse to talk to me, and I've only talked to my mother for a bit, telling her I'm alright and why I really couldn't go through with it. I've gotten a lot of people asking if I'm alright and saying that they're here for me. And I'm glad for it. But I've also had a lot of people questioning on why I've become a dick and butthole. I've cleaned out my stuff from the apartment. I have everything I need back with my best friend with whom I'm staying with. I took the cat too. Because I got him before knowing her. Luckily I did it all in one day, and don't have to go back for any reason. I guess her brother is pretty heated and flew back almost immediately because he showed up at my friend's apartment trying to get in and yelling. Anyway, I don't have any regrets except letting it get this far. I apologized to everyone for that, and I am sorry for it. But I am not sorry for ending this toxic relationship. So, some of the questions I've received are about my parents' status. Yes, I come from a rich family, and so does my ex-fiancé. Our parents paired us up based on social status and because they were all very close in the community. Yes, I did get a trust from my dad that I was able to claim when I turned 25, so we are financially involved. And yes, I do make my own money. I work a full-time job and make a great salary that definitely doesn't need to be supplemented if my parents cut me out of their lives. And I've gotten quite a lot of questions about my ex-girlfriend, before my ex-fiancé, that I briefly mentioned in my last post. Me and her met young and fell in what we thought was love. She was amazing in every sense of the word, just by her love of life and pretty much everything else. She was always positive and kind. I mean, every relationship has issues, and we did too. But it was just so much simpler back then, and probably because we were so young. We had great sex, great times, and she was my best friend. I'll probably never love someone as much as the young me loved her back then. But with being young, and idiotic, you make dumb decisions and you're easily swayed. I've tried to please my parents my entire life. With school, with my social life, with my career. And they hated her. They hated that she had a tattoo, that she didn't come from a rich family, that her dad was out of the picture. They didn't say those were the reasons, but I knew. And eventually, the relationship was too hard to keep. They were terrible to her, constantly. And she put up with it like a trooper. But I remember how hard it was, and how easy letting go seemed. Especially when my parents introduced me to my ex-fiancé. A shiny new toy. I'm not proud of leaving her, and I know that I would have ended up marrying her. But my mind couldn't comprehend back then. I've had a lot of people ask me to reach out to her, and I've had a lot of people that cautioned against it. I've spoken to her a few years ago since our breakup, but just briefly. I found her on social media and sent her, "Hello, it's nice to see you again," and she just replied with, "Congratulations, I heard you got married." Anyway, it was a long conversation, and we had some laughs, but we're meeting for coffee Sunday night, so there's that. Now, I'm not expecting a single thing, and I'm not trying to get her in bed either. I will be having enough to deal with for the next week or so, but it will be nice seeing an old dear friend. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks again for everyone here. This little community is helping me get through this and I'm so thankful for that. If anyone is in a bad situation, and you know so in your heart, get out. Everyone deserves to be happy. And only you can get you there. The next one is titled, I'm the guy who cancelled his wedding 2-month update. It's been almost 2 months since I cancelled. I'm back at work, still living with my best friend, best man. My parents still aren't talking to me. My dad told my mom to tell me that I'm dead to him and that he regrets ever giving me a dime of his money. I lost a lot of friends. And a lot of relatives. I've been labeled the biggest butthole by many people, and even blasted on social media. My ex is a vindictive witch and made up a bunch of crap about me cheating on her, and that's why she held off sex. For the record, it wasn't true. Ever. She tried the whole being nice thing to get me back, and when it didn't work she became crazy and threatening. Her family has threatened me and friend, especially her brother. We had to call the cops on him once actually after warning him not to come back. My ex-fiancé has threatened a lawsuit. I briefly discussed this in my last post. And her family's lawyer actually got in contact with me. Not sure if it will actually make it to court, but I'm going through the process to protect myself with my lawyer. I met up with my ex, the girl I dated before my fiancé. I spoke about her in my last update. We had coffee, and things went great. We've been seeing each other casually a couple times a week since. Taking it super slow, but I'm very happy to have contact with her again. She's been super great at just being a happy person to have through this time. It's just been kind of non-stop drama, so I've closed myself off of any social media and even some family. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.